Okay, so we're going to talk about a very unusual creature now. This is not a hummingbird. It's actually a moth, a very unique species of moth. And I'm interested to know if any of you have ever seen one. They're called a mimic. They've evolved so that they act like a hummingbird. I came across these the first time out in the field that we have in the US, or in New York. I planted a couple of acres of pollinator plants to attract beetles and flies and all kinds of creatures to pollinate, particularly monarch butterflies, of course. I took a lot of pictures on a beautiful August day. I got back to the cabin, I was going through them, and I saw this creature, and I didn't know what it was. And doing some research, I realized that it's a moth, and a very unusual moth. This was called a clearwing, hummingbird clearwing moth. They can fly just like a hummingbird. They can zip in and out, they can zip up and down, they can go from full speed to a full stop, they can hover, they can do anything a ruby-throated hummingbird can do, but they're not a bird. What we see here that looks like feathers is actually just the fur of a moth. You can rub it off with your hand if you're aggressive with it. And what gives them the name are these openings on the feathers, what looks like opening. Sorry about that. Their wings are actually made of keratin. They're not bone and skin and feathers like a hummingbird. They're keratin, the same material that our hair is made of, and covered with these small scales. As they get older or they beat their wings against a bush, they start to lose those scales, and you can see through their wing. That's where the name clearwing came from. There are 4 different species of these characters. The one I showed you before is the one we tend to see in the east if you're a gardener, if you have plants that attract pollinating creatures. This is the snowberry clearwing moth. But notice a couple differences here. You see these antennae? Obviously the hummingbird doesn't have antennae. And where a hummingbird has a straight bill that they'll insert into a plant, the moth has this proboscis, or tongue, that they can coil into their mouth and back out to go into the plant to get nectar. Very interesting adaptation in the natural world that this moth mimics a hummingbird. The speculation is they did that to survive predation. They're big. I mean, some of them are 5-6 inches long. So they're a lot bigger than most moths you would encounter. But they're very different. Here, again, you can see through that wing very easily. This one I like a lot. This is a beautiful creature, the white-lined sphinx moth. That's more of a Midwest and Western United States. And then this one, the Nessus sphinx moth, is also Western U.S. I'm sorry that's not a great photo. It's the best one I could find, but you get an ant for free on this one. So. But very unique creatures to see them. One other interesting point, this is the larva stage or the caterpillar stage of the snowberry clearwing, obviously called a hornworm. And you think, well, okay, I have to be careful of this. That horn is actually flexible. It's not harmful, it's not poisonous, but from the coloration scheme and the shape, again, it's a natural adaptation trying to scare off a bird from eating that caterpillar.